ever gotten to the point where you're just completely frustrated um, and it feels like nothing is going right? That is where I currently am at this point in time. Just an overview of what has happened in my life in the last 6 months. Um, Back in December of 2014, I was actually let go from a position. I worked down in New York City, location down near the Wall Street area for a well known healthcare company. Being that I was let go, at the time I didn't know it, and I was just like, well, maybe it's the start of something new. It's going to open the door to a new opportunity or something like that. However, it has been 6 months, and I'm still looking. Many of the positions that I've applied for do not either I'm overqualified, underqualified, or do not have the experience for the position. No matter how much I may express myself, I've gone to the point where I've revised, restructured, reorganized, probably have about 6 different layouts of resumes in different formats for different opportunities and jobs. But sometimes you want to go for something that you want to, but you just have to take anything. And it's not fair because, for one, I received my degree. I did two inpatient, one with children and one with adult, with as an MSW clinician. Now I received a year field internship with inpatient adult psych and behavioral health, inpatient psychiatry, dealing with mental illness, substance abuse, aiming to get the patients back to their baseline. Um, you know, Working with these individuals while medicated in a hospital or not medicated, substance-induced disorders and diagnosis and things like that, and building and creating and developing a comprehensive psychosocial, just things like that that I've, worked with, and also worked with children ages 6 to 18 as far as, my clinical goals. However, I have been working since the age of 14. I was not awarded or was able to afford the opportunity of not. I started off in a program. I grew up, actually, let me begin. I was born in New York City, South Jamaica, and and at the time that I was born in the major crack epidemic, time, era. So I was born amongst a lot of children who did not grow up with their parents, who were in single family homes. Their parents suffered from alcohol and substance abuse. There was abuse sexually, physically, mentally, all of that in a home. So that is how and where I grew up. So I have never had any kind of spoon that has been in my mouth. So from working in parks and recreation departments at the age of 14 to working at McDonald's, from McDonald's to Starbucks, from Starbucks to a data clerk, then from a data clerk over to a telecommunications and cable, where I was able to manage 23 representatives as a supervisor, and I just literally worked my way up. From then, I decided that I wanted to transition into the field of social work. So I was like, I'm going to go back to school. And so I resigned. Now, after having the opportunity of joining women's group and going to women's conferences and attending things and being one of the top customer service supervisors with 23 representatives, adhering to all of the policies and procedures and doing all of their things, as far as my job responsibilities were mentoring and coaching and presenting and conducting meetings, I was able to develop those skills, and that's what leads me to today. So I transitioned out because I always volunteered at organizations in New York City, as far as food pantries, reading books to children at night, in shelters, to delivering food, to packaging food. All of these experiences is what molded me into what I would say is my passion, because I have a close relationship to it from childhood, from an innate childhood. So with that all being said, I decided, social work was the way that I wanted to go. And as I got into school, I realized that I wanted to go the clinical route. Now, Um, in order to do the clinical route, I looked for another job and I managed to receive a great, I think was great, which was working in the foster care division of, a nonprofit organization. So I had hands-on experience with shelter systems, education systems from children with IEPs and special education, which I can relate to. I was a child in special education labeled emotionally disturbed with behavioral problems and put in special education. So I dealt with a lot of children that were of child abuse and neglect, abandonment, maltreatment, special education, developmentally disabled, mental illnesses, teenagers with substance abuse problems starting at the age of 12. So I've dealt with all of that and worked and managed a caseload of 23 children. So with that comes collaborating with NYPD, working with parent advocates, going to court, getting mental health evaluations from parents, referring children to mental health, therapeutic services, and working closely with them to, reunite and work towards permanency of a kinship or non-kinship home. So with that, I developed these skills and I said, okay, this is definitely a field that I want to go to, especially when I was working with the mental health side. I am very much like a public speaker, motivational speaker, and I was doing that on the side as well. So in the midst of working with them, I attended a university in New York and obtained my master's degree. Now with that master's degree, it was, pretty challenging. I went through 2 positions within the foster care agency and was actually referred and promoted to quality improvement, which that was great. That was where you go in and you do the oversight of the policies and procedures and make sure that the organization's adhering to the state and federal guidelines, and just making sure that everything is in accordance with all of the accreditation and oversight. So I did that and I felt like I learned so much. From 14 years old, working in a park where my check was $250 for every 2 weeks. I had to buy my own school clothes. I had to make sure that, and by 16, I had to pay my own rent and rent out of these homes and decide, okay, this is the opportunity that I want to take and go back to school. As a first-generation student, I don't have any parents or any assistants or anybody who can even give me a quarter, which is really something that I struggle with every day, knowing that I can't even call home and say, hey, I don't have a job. Can I come stay for a little bit until I can get it together? I do not have that. So it is very, very, very challenging when you get out into the world and you get out there and you have to do it alone. And that's okay. I've never had a victim mentality. But when it comes to the system is that I have 2, I go into a work and I make sure that I work and I do what I need to do. However, now that I have a master's, it's not enough. It's not enough. And what I'm saying by it's not enough is that I paid thousands, going to a university. It wasn't, inexpensive. No opportunities are being presented because I don't have the qualifications. Now, when they say I don't have the qualifications, this is coming from a person from on my end, developing a young women's group in New York City, being the event planner for it, to gather girls who are in college together to interact and network so that they can build their network, to being a top supervisor, mentoring and coaching representatives in an organization, to developing youth, to working in shelters, to from the sweat, the cries, the tears for 9.5 years or more on my end. I'm not qualified. Now, I say this because I do this video because I know that there is others that can relate to this. I have revised, like I said, reorganized, put keywords, the keywords that are on the job description so that if it goes through the system, because remember, they're doing like hundreds and thousands, but what do? I've volunteered. There's a little gap in because of the unemployment in me looking for employment. I've reached out to LinkedIn recruiters. Unfortunately, they redirect me over to the website. I've cold called organizations and managers and connected with CEOs on LinkedIn and reached out via phone. I've reached out to even a $10 an hour job, and I have a master's. I'm not saying this that, okay, yeah, I should have this and I should have that. No, everything is worked for. I know that. I know everything you have to work for, and I plan on working for what I need to do in order to enhance my life and in order for me to have a career. When I go to apply for these particular positions as an MSW, they say they want an LCSW. In order to get an LCSW, you need 2 years of experience, 2.5 or 2 to 3 years experience in order for you to sit for the LCSW. So, okay, so the clinical, it says preferred for LCSW. However, still no opportunities. I do not know what it is that I'm doing wrong, because across the board I have applied everywhere. Okay, so then I apply for nonprofit organizations. I apply for a residential counselor. Give me $9 an hour. Let me see if I can do it. I have to take my master's degree off. I'm overqualified. They won't give me an opportunity because I'm overqualified. Why are you applying here? You should be here. Recently, I had an interview for a child welfare position. And that child welfare position, although I have the experience working with children and families, they tell me I should try another position within it. So I take this breather and I just go, woosah. Because I'm at a point where I don't get any unemployment. I'm trying to bartend and get nanny jobs and do what I can. I don't even care. I'm to the point where I don't care if I have to mop a floor, serve coffee. I work in a barista and a serving espresso. It's my favorite anyway, so I'll have fun doing it. But what I'm here to say is that when is it going to be okay to start giving people the opportunity to just be in work? Like, I feel like on my end, I'm very much a hardworking individual. But because I don't have the connections, I don't have a family that has anything. It's hard dealing with a parent with mental illness. It's hard dealing with a family who's not, as a first-generation student, I have to explain to them, I'm not better than you. I am your family. I love you. But I just want to get out into the world and build a career. I want to change things. Being that little girl from South Jamaica, Queens, and seeing, violence and gangs and hearing gunshots in your window, you want to get out of there. You want to relocate. You want to move. You want a better life. And I know I want a better life. But how could I have a better life if I'm not even giving it or being afforded opportunity? I have so much knowledge of program oversight and just, I'm at a point of frustration, I guess. But I continue to hold on to that faith. I really do. I hold on to faith at this point. And I'm not giving up. So I'm just letting you know, I'm not giving up. I'm never giving up. Never going to give up. Never. So, if anybody's out there struggling, just know that you're not the only one, and that you're going to be able to make it. I'm going to get through this. I have no choice. But just know that you're going to get through this.